Hey everyone, how you doing? So, I just wrapped up a series of retrospectives I did on every fully released international PvZ game. And do you want to know something that I realized when I was making that series? I kind of like some of the games more than some others. I know that's obvious, not everybody likes the games all the same, but it still shocked me because I'm the type of person to not really care about how much I enjoy the games, at least for the most part. I've kind of always just played them, but if I had to rank them, well, that's the topic for today's video. As a send-off to the series that took me way longer to finish than I'd ever like to admit, I'm going to be ranking every single game I covered in the series, obviously with my own opinions thrown in. If we were being objective, BFM would be pretty low on the list, but it's also one of my favorite games of all time, so needless to say, it's not at the bottom. In any case, I'm still going to be objective about one thing, that being the quality of the games themselves. And while that won't play a part into the rankings too much, it will make a big enough difference for me to say that none of the games are bad or even mediocre. I think every PvZ game that has ever released has at least been good, even if there's been problems. And with that in mind, let's jump right into the list. And my bottom ranker here is PvZ Adventures easily. Now, I've never played this game before, so obviously I'm not going to have any nostalgia tied to it, but with that being said, I also want to point out that PopCap themselves stopped updating the game 3 months after it launched, and they left it to rot for over a year before shutting it down. That's not a good sign, and looking at the game itself, I can kind of understand why that was done. Adventures just had a lot of issues, and that goes beyond the Facebook gaming aspect of it. The game itself just seemed sluggish at times, and with an isometric tower defense game, you have better choices. I mean, look no further than Bloons. This franchise was really starting to pick up during this time period, and comparing it to PvZ Adventures, yeah, this looks better. But with that being said, this game is still PvZ, and that charm alone makes it solid. I mean, yes, it might be very basic, but there's still stuff here to love, like B-Shooter. This is a B-Shooter friendly channel. If you don't like it, unsub now. But this just isn't enough to save the game in my opinion. It's hard to like a game that you can't even play, and that's why it's at the bottom of the list. Right above it is a game that shouldn't shock many of you, and that is PvZ Heroes. I have mixed feelings on Heroes. On one hand, I applaud the creativity of the game and the idea itself, and some hero and card interactions are super cool. And on the other hand, grind. And it's also just not my type of game, so we might have a problem here. I've expressed my stance on Heroes a lot, but if you want a refresher, I love the idea of the game, but it's not for me. I'm somebody who's always preferred actually doing something in my games, and not watching somebody do it for me, if that makes any sense at all. Games like Hearthstone and Heroes just don't appeal to me, because you're just telling a character what card to use, and it's not all that interesting to watch in my book. At least for something like the tower defense games, you're more like a lawn manager, who's constantly micromanaging the messes that the zombies create. It feels more personal there, but Heroes just feels different. There's an audience for the game, one that's incredibly loyal even nowadays, and that is something that I will never not respect because it shows signs of a strong-willed community, which is something that's kept this franchise going since 2019. But that's simply not enough for me to like the game, and yeah, I'm not a fan. Still though, Heroes is a great game for the people out there who enjoy card games like these, and if that's something that appeals to you, try it. You're most likely going to get a kick out of the game. Also, Fry, thank you for throwing your thoughts into my comments. I appreciate it. Alright, now this is where things are gonna start to get controversial. Oh no. Okay, so let's start at number 5, PvZ 1. Yeah, this game's gonna piss a lot of people off. Okay, so let me explain my thoughts here before I get burnt on the cross. I love PvZ 1, and I'm not gonna act like I don't. This game is special to me in so many ways. I have so many fond memories of the game, and watching people play the game, and interacting with the game's community. But that doesn't change how I feel about the gameplay, and it's boring. Listen, you can rant to me all day long about how building an endless strat defense is one of the most thought-provoking and in-depth experiences anybody can have, but I don't care? After a little while, the game just feels the same. Like yes, you can enjoy multiple playthroughs, and yes, you can get creative with how you tackle the game, but after a while, you gotta admit that the game kind of runs out of stuff to throw at you, and it's not like this is PvZ 1's fault. It's not. This is the first game in the franchise. Of course it's not going to be perfect. No game is. People treat it that way, but I feel like those people are also the same people who have watched every Datura video to ever exist. Sorry, that was a little bit mean, but you get my point. PvZ 1 after a while has basically nothing to offer unless you're challenging yourself. And even then, you can only get so creative. Now, of course, the game is still amazing, and if you haven't played it yet, treat yourself. I'm just speaking as somebody who's played more PvZ 1 than I'd ever like to admit, so of course I'm gonna have some opinions on the game that are not so nice. But in any case, that's how it all goes. Sorry PvZ 1, I love ya, but you're not even halfway on the list. What is halfway on the list is Garden Warfare 1. And yes, I do think Garden Warfare 1 is the weakest of the 3 shooters. I've expressed my opinion on this before, but if you want a reminder, I'll do you one better and give even more thoughts on it. So, Garden Warfare 1 was quite literally my childhood game. I think I had well over 400 hours in it between 2014 and 2016, which is huge considering just how much time of my life went into Minecraft and BO2. With that in mind though, I also feel like this game gets overshadowed by Garden Warfare 2 and BFN in terms of content. Mostly. Garden Warfare 1 does have something over those 2 games, that being Ops. And if I loved Ops, I would be pissed as hell at BFN. I'm not. I don't like Ops. So even in that department, I don't care. The one thing that Garden Warfare 1 genuinely does better, besides maybe cosmetics and maps, and I couldn't care less if I tried. That's a shame. But still, Garden Warfare 1 is hard to hate. It's the first shooter game, and for its many issues, I still love it. I will never not love it. Nostalgia will always rule my heart with an iron fist for this game in particular. But oh my god, the other 2 games are just so much better. Nostalgia can only do so much for a game I like, and that's why Garden Warfare 1 is only halfway. If I was somebody who could get swayed easily by public opinion and nostalgia, then Garden Warfare 1 would be in the top 2. But I've been around long enough to know that public opinions differ from what people actually think of the games, and for a lot of people like me, Garden Warfare 1 just doesn't have that much of a leg to stand on besides its unique traits. And even then, boss mode is not something I would ever be proud of in any situation, ever. Alright, now we're entering my top 3, and here comes the controversy. PvZ 2 is my 3rd pick here. Oh no, PvZ 2, what happened? God, I remember playing this game so much back in the day, I loved it. The one thing I wasn't a fan of was Snow Pea being locked behind a paywall, but besides that, I played constantly. And while I still do play a ton nowadays, the game feels hollow. Like, I still love it, the game still feels amazing, but the leveling and some of the new plants and... oh, God. I didn't really express my true frustrations in the PvZ 2 video, but this game sometimes feels so good and so meh at the same time. I really do feel like PvZ 2 went from being PvZ 1's snappier and faster alternative to being a grind fest that basically incentivizes you to permanently level up plants to make the game easier. I just don't like that. And that's why I'm somebody who hasn't ever really talked about Penny's Pursuit and Arena. I don't play either, because all of my plants are level 1. Okay, but with that out of the way, I still do love PvZ 2. I constantly come back to this game, and the community is a big part of why I do so. Mods are keeping the game running right now, and there's some awesome ones out there too. Stuff like Reflourished, which is my style, I'll tell you that much, and Altverse, which is really cool, and hell, there's even some really neat builds of Eclipse, but Eclipse respectfully doesn't need to be mentioned. There's so much more I could talk about, though I shouldn't be for leaking reasons, and I'm not one of those people. But in any case, I still love PvZ 2, and vanilla is not the primary reason for that as of now. Okay, now here comes my most controversial opinion in the video. Number 2 is Garden Warfare 2. Yep, this one's gonna make some of you mad. But I'm sure if you're still watching at this point, you're doing it out of spite, so let's push into blade further. No point in backing out. So, Garden Warfare 2 is an amazing game. I love basically everything about it. I don't really have anything negative to say. So why is it number 2? I like BFM more. That's it. I mean, we could talk about how meh the campaigns are and how Infinity Time is legitimately not fun, but who cares? You guys have seen my rank plate. You've seen my hours. I love Garden Warfare 2. Of course I'm gonna be pissy about some minor things. I'm a max rank. If I didn't have anything negative to say about the game, I wouldn't have it in the first place, because there's always something negative to say about a game you love. That's why I don't feel like it matters here, so we'll move on. And now we've got my favorite PvZ game, which I'm sure shocks nobody, because who has made as many BFN videos as I have? Yeah, almost nobody, because BFN is an acquired taste. And yeah, I acquired it. I love so much about BFN, even if every piece of it is flawed. From the upgrade system to the game mode selection to even how the game feels sometimes, BFN is not perfect, but I still love it. This is like my dream PvZ game, and if it was given more love, then my opinion would probably sound a lot more reasonable. But this is PopCap we're talking about, and BFN is unfinished, simply put. That really sucks, but at the very least, I can give the game the attention I truly believe it deserves with my platform. And it seems like a good chunk of you agree with me here when I say that BFN has been hated so much more than it ever deserved. The game is not for everybody, but in any case, I still think it's great. But of course, the BFN Witch is gonna have some nice things to say about the game. No duh. And with that, that's my ranking on all of the games. Yes, I did warn you that these picks were gonna be my opinions, and now I hope you understand why. I am biased, you are biased, we're all biased. And do you want to know why that is? It's because we all like PvZ. Of course, bias is going to be thrown around. And with that in mind, I want to see your list in the comments. I read them, and I'm not going to be judging any of you, not when BFN's my favorite PvZ game. Also, I'd like to give some big shoutouts to Aldentity for Omens, Wapfa, and Dan B for being $5 supporters of my channel. Thank you all so much, you rock. And if you're new around here and you like what you saw, then maybe consider subscribing too. It helps me out a ton, and you get to see more bad opinions, I mean good takes from me. Win-win. Now, as for me, I'm gonna go ahead and make some new PvZ games. So I'll see you all in my next video. Peace.